In this video, I'm going to show you how I track every Amazon inventory purchase I make to stay organized as a seven-figure Amazon seller. Whether you're working with a VA or sourcing products yourself, having the right systems in place can make or break your business. I'll walk you through my full tracking setup so you can make sure you have the perfect systems in place. Starting off here, we're just going to break down everything that goes into this sheet, and then I will tell you how to use it exactly. So it may look like a lot of information at this point because there is a pretty long list here. Not everything is 100% necessary. You can choose to keep whatever you want or keep all of it. This is just how I have set this up. I made this completely from scratch when I started selling on Amazon. And I think that this is a lot better than some of the online CRMs or any other type of thing online that you could use to track leads. You could also put this into Google Sheets if you don't have an Excel app on your computer or anything like that. It is compatible with everything. Some of the formulas though may not work depending on if you import that, so it might take a little bit of extra work on your end, but it's completely up to you. So first you can just see on this top bar, we've got all of these different categories here. And I'm going to explain them all, but you can also just check this first page here, instructions, because it's got an explanation of everything in here. And I'm going to leave a link in the description for you to download this if you do want to use it. It will be completely free. You will see a checkout screen because they do require some price in there, but it is pay what you want, and you can just put 0 in the box for that. I don't want anything for this sheet. It will be completely free. So we've got the date here. You're just going to enter all of these pieces of information whenever you place an order for a product, whether that's OA, wholesale, retail arbitrage, any type of purchase that you make for your Amazon business, you're going to want to enter in here one row for each one. If there's multiple products on an order, you'll just do multiple rows with the same order number here. So today is June 18th, so we're just going to put in 6/18 here, and it will fill in the date automatically. The next one, if you have multiple credit cards, this is going to come in handy. If you don't, you could just leave this blank. But I personally have multiple credit cards that I use for different purchases depending on what it is. So let's just say, for example, I used a Chase card for this. I would just throw a C in here. If the next purchase I made was on an American Express, maybe a gold card or a blue card, I would just put a B or a G depending on which card it would be. And the good thing about doing this when you have multiple cards is you can click this little drop down arrow here and you can select your cards that you made the purchase with. You can either just check them off one by one or just do select all and it'll erase it. You can click on B and it will fill that in there. You can also leave the blanks on if you want to see everything else under here, but you can see it filtered out the ones that had the C and the G. There's nowhere to go up anymore because it took those rows away. To put it back, you just click on select all and you can exit out of this. The next one is going to be the merchant, the supplier, the store that you bought it from. So for this example, let's just do Kohl's, and then we'll type that in there. Order number is going to be specific to your individual orders. So I would just normally copy that from the thank you for your order screen or the email that you get. Item name, same thing, specific to your orders. Then we've got it broken down by color and size here. Instead of putting it in this item name box where you can't see it, it's a lot easier if you just put in, I don't know, black here, size small, and then that way you don't have to go into this box and try to figure out which is which. If you have multiples of the same product, different sizes, different colors, it's a lot easier to do it this way. For the item name, I usually just take that from the Amazon listing. So that way when I'm pulling up the product, I know that it is the right one just to match that up, because sometimes on Amazon, the names for the titles are a little bit different than maybe what your supplier has for them because of whatever people have made that to be. Then we've got specific to your product, again, the ASIN, Amazon link, and the supplier link. Store link is definitely really something that you want to have in here, because if you want to replenish that product from the same supplier, then you can just easily copy this link that you put in here and paste it into your browser to find that product and repurchase it again. Amazon link if you want to check the product before you repurchase it. It all goes into play there too. Units is going to be how many units you ordered on that one order, not in total if you buy them in different orders or different suppliers. So we'll just do 10 in here. You can see when I did that, those formulas that were empty did populate zeros, and they are going to put in different numbers when you fill out the rest of this. But the next column is going to be how many you shipped. And this is pretty important too, because if you send in only 5 of them because they got split up into multiple shipments, you're going to want to know how many more you're expecting to receive and ship out. So I would update that to 5 for the example, and then put the date if I shipped them out today, which is not usually possible unless you're doing retail arbitrage, to have the same date as your order date. But I would do that, and then when I get the next 5, or if it's less than that, if I get 2 more and I ship them out the next day, I would put in 7 and then put in 619, and then I'll keep updating this date right here until this ship number matches the number of units that I ordered in total. So that way I'll know when the latest date that I shipped it out was. If you want to track multiple dates, you can right click on this box, add a note, and say first one was ordered on shipped out 6/18, first 5, something like that, and keep adding these down in here as you do that. I don't really think that's necessary because you can always just check whatever software you use to make your shipments and see when the other dates that you shipped it out was. But again, it just kind of depends on your own preference there. Also, if I receive, I don't know, some product that maybe doesn't have a tag on it and we can't send it into Amazon, I'll also put a note in here and say 1 no tag. So that way I'll know. And if I got all the rest of them, I would do 9 plus 1 with no tag. So that way when I'm going to ship them out, I'll just hover over this and know, okay, I'm not putting in 10 for the quantity that I'm shipping. I'm putting in 9, because if you don't have that, maybe you have a prep center or you do your own in-house prep, this is just a lot more efficient leaving notes like this rather than having to go through all of your inventory again at the time of shipping stuff out. Another thing you might want to consider with this is when you have a long list of ASINs that are filled up and maybe it's the end of the month or something, you can just fill this box a different color and say, okay, that purple, for example, means that my product is in-house and it's ready to ship, rather than having to go and check the products again. Like I was saying, that just seems to be more efficient for me at least. The next ones are just going to be your price. Say you bought 10 of them for, I don't know, $200. You'll see those update. So now it says price per unit and the total, and then the total per unit again. The reason why it's duplicated here 20 is because of these 2 boxes in here. So if you have a shipping cost, I don't know, maybe it's $10, maybe your tax is $5, then you can see what your total per unit would be after all of these other costs in here. If you have a prep cost, you could also add another column in here and just edit this formula to say, not that one, this one here, just add another comma, click on the box, and it will add that into your total as well. Cashback depends on if you want to track it or not. Some people don't, but I think it's important to, because it is free money. It's non-taxable money. So you might as well get the most out of it that you can. So when I get an email from Rakuten or Top Cashback, say it's, I don't know, 10% cashback, that would be $20 here. And you can also see down at the bottom, all these boxes started to update whenever I put in those numbers. If we had another one, including these total units and then shipped units, because you want to know at the end of every month if you shipped out all of your units that you ordered. And if not, you need to call companies or email companies, get your refunds, that kind of stuff there. And as you add in more here, you'll be able to see that it does update there and at the bottom here. Now, something that just came up as I was doing that is these formulas for the first, in my experience, it's 5 rows. maybe 5 to 7 rows on a new month, they don't copy and paste and fill in all the way. So what I'll do is I'll just copy this formula down, do the next one, and then we'll see that here these two didn't populate. So just copy these down. Once you get down to like row 6 or row 8, when you start to fill in those numbers, they will just auto-populate in there, but it's not too much of an inconvenience to have to do that for the first 5 or so rows there. Moving on here, the next two are going to be your minimum sale price that you'd want to sell the product for and your projected sale price at the time when you purchase the product. Projected sale price is to get estimates of all of these numbers down here in these rows. The minimum sale price is going to be if you're sending in your product, putting it into a shipment, and price has dropped a lot, and maybe the normal price now or the average price now is below what your minimum sale price is, that's going to tell you that you either need to, 1, hold that product, or 2, send it back to where you got it from. Because we don't want to send in anything that has tanked in price and is way lower than what we thought it was going to be, especially lower than what our minimum would be. So I always check whenever I'm done purchasing a product and filling this sheet out, I'll put in my projected. So for a $21 item, maybe it's going to be 50 or 60. You can see that this one did populate, the others didn't yet. That would be because we need our projected profit. We'll just say, for the example, $15. Then you can see here that we've got pretty good numbers on that estimate right there that filled in there. But then what I would also check is my personal minimum is 25% ROI. So I would go in and see what my 25% minimum is. And I don't know what that would be off of this product, but maybe it's just like $38 or something. Then I'll put that in there. So when I go and I copy my ASIN from over here and paste it into my shipment, then I know that if prices average around 38 or 37 or maybe 35, I don't want to send that product in right away. The next part here at the end is going to be kind of up to you if you want to use this or not. But for me personally, I don't like paying off inventory that hasn't sold yet. I don't like fronting what could possibly turn into my profit to pay off inventory. And that's because I use 0% interest credit cards. And if you want to know more about that, you can go watch the previous video that I just posted, because that is a whole detailed explanation on how to cycle through 0% cards every year. So that way, for 1, you don't get interest, and 2, you can also do this method where you don't have to just dump your money at your credit cards and not be able to take out your profit. So what I'll do with this is, personally, I have my VA do this at this point, so that way I don't have to spend as much time doing it. But when you're new in the beginning, you're not going to have that many products to go through like I do now. So you can easily do this on your own. And in Seller Central, you can go into each individual product and you can see your net units sold inside of the SKU details. And so I'll just take the ASIN from on the left side here, paste it into my Manage All Inventory page, open that up, see what my net units sold are. Say, I don't know, at the end of the month, we sold through 7 of them. You put a 7 in there, it says how many you have left, and then it tells you here how much you need to pay back for this inventory based off what's sold, what's left from what you've sold. So maybe you had 5 in the beginning. You paid off $107.50 to your credit card. That will update to a left from sold 0 because you've paid off the 5 units that have sold. It tells you here you're left with what's unsold. Then when you go in and you have another 2 sell, maybe in 2 weeks, a week later, you'll update this, and then you'll see here why the left from sold is important, because it says here $150 is what you need to be paid back. You've only paid back $107, so what you're left to pay off is $43. So when this is the case, you don't have to worry about doing any math, because this, when there's nothing else in here, if this said, I don't know, we'll have to fill in this box here because I don't want to clear out this column there. So we'll just do 50, 10, fill that in. Okay, and then we need a units in here. which is just going to be another 10. Because usually in the beginning when you're testing stuff, you want to do 10 units. If you're really new, like first month, maybe 5 units. But so we'll see here that we've got now these numbers are populated. So if we do our 10 here, then we'll see 43 here, or even not with that, we'll have 53 to pay off. So you don't have to worry about doing all the math, because also when you pay off this total number down here, which I always pay it off first and then go back and do this, because you don't want to mess up and forget to pay it off and then not know that you didn't do it. So we'll come in here and we just copy the numbers from this left side once everything's paid off. You don't have to worry about adding this, because this is the sum of these two here. So when we do 10 and then we do 150, 50, then we have 0 at the bottom here left from sold. If you have multiple cards, you could do something like this and say gold. You would go in and you would filter out your prices here. We're just going to do the B for the example because that's the only one besides the top one. And we'll do blue. And then I'll do a sum here and go through and just click these and add them all together. If these were all also filled in, press enter. It'll tell you what you have left for each individual card. So that way you don't have to worry about doing math again and doing extra work for that. So this is pretty much the biggest purpose of this sheet here. There are a couple other things in here. And like I said, just kind of edit this down to whatever you feel like you need. Maybe you don't feel like you need these rows here. They are just projections because price does change, a repricer, everything like that. So maybe not necessary for everybody, but what I would not recommend is getting rid of anything from here over to the left. And these green columns also are going to be what you want to take a look at when you're doing your shipments. Because the 4 things that you're going to need when you enter into pretty much every single shipment software is going to be the date that you purchased it, the supplier, which is not green. Then you need to know your units. If you have multiple shipments, like I was saying, you'll need this shipped one. You'll need your total per unit. And then you're going to need, also in addition to those, you're going to need to know your projected and your minimum sale price there. So those are going to be the most important columns there. If you want to turn this one green, you can. It's up to you. I just never did personally. But the other 2 things that go with this sheet are going to be your spend goal here. So I've got every single month in here already put in, and then these formulas are already done here with the month that corresponds to it. So you can see here 23.35. If we go back to January, we'll see here in our total that's adding up all of these purchases, we got 23.35 here. Say you want to spend, I don't know, $10,000 your first month. You'll put in a 10,000 here. You'll be able to see your progress in a percentage here. But then if you go back to January, what you're going to want to do, since this one is not set up correctly, I will show you how to set it up. So you're going to want to do left to spend goal. You're going to want to take this, do a sum, put this number here, the total that you spent, minus your spend goal. You could do it the other way, but I like to see it as a negative value because then I know that I'm not over my spend goal. When it's positive, I know that I've spent enough and I don't have to keep going if I didn't want to. But if you can always spend more money, you're going to want to spend more money. That is going to be also very key to know. If you have a virtual assistant, they can take a look at this number and see, okay, what's our spend goal? They can also look at this and see the progress here. It just comes in handy in different situations if that is something that you're paying attention to. If you're not, it should be. And that is because of this next page here, your goal setting. This is going to be also formulas. You only want to edit these orange boxes, these 3. And to give it like a better real world example, I took my actual numbers from, the second half of 2022, because I started in the middle of 2022 in June. So these are the numbers from my first 6 months. And what you're going to want to do is take your profit year to date for the whole time that you've been selling. I only did the first 6 months 3 years ago just because it was easier to do for this example. You're going to want to take your year-to-date profit here. Then your buy cost, what you spent on inventory year-to-date. That's going to give you your year-to-date return on investment as an average across everything. So some might have been 50 or 60%, some might have been 20, 15 because of price tanks, anything like that. It's going to take your average. Then what you're going to want to do is put in your profit goal here, whatever you want to make. And it's going to populate what you need to spend daily, weekly, and monthly in order to hit this profit goal based off of your past numbers here. So if I wanted to make, instead of 5,000, 10,000 a month, it's going to change these numbers to say, what do I need to spend as a total for the month? And then if you want to know daily, if you're doing this every single day, then you need to spend at least $1,016 in order to make your 10,000 based off of your previous numbers. If you don't work every day, then the weekly would probably be the better way to look at it. But this is a really important thing to know, so that way you're not just buying inventory and basically shooting in the dark and hoping that you make it to your profit goals. And that way you can see exactly what you need to do if you want to earn different amounts. For 2,500 it drops, 7,500 drops down. And that way also, if you have a cap on maybe how much you can spend every single month, you can kind of play around with this and get it to that number. Like if you could only spend 20,000 a month, you'll have to go a little bit lower and keep playing around with it until you hit this. And then you'll know that, okay, based on these numbers, and I have 20,000 a month to spend, I can expect to earn $6,700 a month in profit. If you found this video helpful, make sure you subscribe for more advanced Amazon tips and strategies. Let me know in the comments if you guys have any questions. And there's also a link in the description, like I mentioned, to download this lead tracker. There's another link down there for anybody who's looking for help starting or growing their Amazon business. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.